seems to be suggesting that Iran is heading full pelt towards nuclear weapon status. Now, we know that for a long time they have been, sort of engaged in the idea of trying to develop a nuclear a capacity of some kind. They've claimed in the past that that has been for civilian purposes, but they've been enriching uranium to a point where, of course, it is of a military grade level. And the concern is that their discussion about, not being thwarted indicates that they want to go full steam ahead towards that. Now, given that President Trump has said that he will not tolerate it, and of course the Israelis have for a long time said that they will not be tolerating it. So it looks like we're heading for a complete clash between Iran, the US, and Israel on this subject.
We agreed that the Ayatollahs must not have nuclear weapons. And we also agreed that Iran's aggression in the region has to be rolled back.
The common theme in all of these challenges is Iran. It is the single greatest source of instability in the region.
Well, a number of things could happen. The first thing, of course, is that we don't know what determination Donald Trump has made about how he wants to bring Iran to heel, as it were, on its nuclear ambitions. The options range from full pressure, which was the economic campaign he mounted before when he was in his first term to try and stop Iran by starving it of finance for this program, or it could go to trying to, sign a new treaty. It's worth noting, for example, that the JCPOA, the rather ill-fated Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which has totally failed to stop Iran from developing its nuclear capacity, is actually ending, or parts of it ending this year. So there could be a concerted move to replace that with a much tougher treaty that will actually keep Iran in play, or rather in its place when it comes to this. Or it could even be military strikes. The one thing that we know is that Donald Trump has said he will not tolerate a nuclear Iran. We know, of course, that Israel has similar ambitions, and whether the two of them work together on this or separately, it's quite clear that both powers are very concerned with the repercussions of having this particularly dangerous regime with the ability to strike at its neighbors or further afield with nuclear weapons. Well, Iran's whole strategy in the Middle East has totally fallen apart since October the 7th. That move by Hamas to attack Israel, undoubtedly with Iranian, sort of sanction in some way, shape, or form, was supposed to highlight Israel's frailties, and it did look like that might be the case when it came to the first couple of months. But after that, Israel's totally turned the tables on Hamas, destroyed its military capabilities, although it still does exist, of course. The same thing happened in Lebanon with Hezbollah, the other big Iranian proxy in the region. And then something totally unexpected for Iran was that its other proxies, Syria, the regime of Bashar al-Assad, which had been propped up by Iran for the last 10 years, essentially since the Arab Spring, also fell apart because Iran was too busy dealing with the problems that October the 7th and Hezbollah had caused with the whole Israel relationship. So Syria went, and as a consequence, now they've been kicked out militarily. The importance of those bases are that firstly, they were key resupply areas for Hezbollah. If you think about the geography of this, to get to Lebanon, you have to go through Syria. And this is how Iran was supplying weaponry to Hezbollah right on the Israeli border. The second factor here, of course, was that the Iranians were trying to use the Syrian border as well as another, area where they could menace Israel. Now, both those things have gone. It's going to be much more difficult to resupply Hezbollah, which is diminished anyway, given what Israel has done. And of course, there's no route through Syria or indeed the ability to use Syria for that purpose. So Iran has been terribly weakened by events in the past few months. But I think, again, a lot depends on what essentially offer the US is making to Iran. Is it, comply, just comply, in which case, fine. If they don't comply, then the next stage happens. Or is it comply in a deal format? If it's a deal format, we'd be expecting, obviously, some kind of negotiation to take place and a deal to emerge at the other end of that. And of course, if Iran refuses to engage in that process, the US would undoubtedly ramp up the pressure in any way it could do. I mean, initially that will be economic, as they've already started to do, but that could very easily turn kinetic in the form of military action of some kind, because ultimately the Americans do have the capacity. I think everyone recognizes they've got the capacity, if they wanted to knock out Iran's nuclear program. The Israelis might be able to do it. The Americans definitely could do. And we already know that the Israelis have great success in knocking out Iran's air defenses. So it's a pretty easy thing for the Americans to strike at. Now, the Iranians know this. So I wonder whether we're in a game of chicken, as it were, and someone trying to avoid swerving off the road here. My bet, though, is that of the two juggernauts coming at each other, the Iranians are going to have to give way because the Americans are in no mood, it would seem, to play games with anyone. They want their way on this. It's a right choice for the world to have Iran not having nuclear weapons, and I think they'll have a lot of support were they to engage in even kinetic action against Iran.